What's up, YouTube? This is Justin Symbol from the God Bombs. We just released a new music video called Virus. Subscribe to this channel, hit the bell for notifications. I am so excited. The new Marilyn Manson album has been released. I have been so excited about this album. Ever since the single dropped, the title track, I was really surprised by the sound of that song. It was like this acoustic kind of ballad, really big major chords. I was really excited that he's taking a different direction with this album. I love that the album cover is an original painting he did. I was interested to see that he's working with Shooter Jennings this time with this album. I really enjoyed his previous two albums with Tyler Bates, so I was kind of disappointed that he was switching from Tyler Bates to Shooter Jennings, but I was excited to see how that match would pair out. I have to say, upon listening to this album, I think it's really phenomenal. It's really different. I can't really compare it to anything else in Marilyn's catalog. It's definitely one of those albums where he takes a big departure from like his heavier sound and goes in sort of a weird direction like he did with Mechanical Animals, Eat Me, Drink Me, or The Pale Emperor. It's definitely its own vibe. This one is very much gothic rock. It kind of has this 80s thing going on, like 80s new wave, David Bowie. So it's different in that sense. It's not as heavy as some of his other albums. But that being said, it definitely doesn't disappoint. The first song, Red, Black, and Blue, is actually one of the heavier songs on the album. The chorus gets really heavy, it has some really cool heavy riffs, some kind of like post-punk grooves. And I think overall it's definitely a great song. It's one of my favorite songs on the album. It's one of my favorite album openers that he has as a whole in his entire discography. I think it's going to be one of the ones that he plays live, and it's going to be really amazing live. It has an awesome spoken word intro. He says, "I was a snake, but I didn't realize you could walk on water without legs." And I think that's a reference to this sort of newfound thing he has where he has this double cross. It's like the Christian cross and the satanic cross combined in one, and he keeps using this logo lately. I think this is sort of speaking to like, he's figured out how to find salvation or like some kind of redemption even as this dark character and not sacrifice his hard edge or sacrifice his true beliefs of who he really is and like have to be like a born-again Christian kind of thing. Also, Red, Black, and Blue I think talks a little bit about politics. It's the only song on the album where he really gets political, which I thought was surprising because we're in the midst of a pandemic, there's a lot going on politically. He says, "All I see are gods on the left and demons on the right." And to me, I took that as kind of a political commentary where he's saying like everyone over here is trying to play God. Everybody on the left side is trying to be like a social justice warrior or tell everybody what's right or wrong. Basically try to police everybody's speech and say like, you can't say this, you can't say that, this is hateful. And on the right, he sees people that are demons, which is like, they're just feeding into this conservative culture of hatred. And then another lyric that he says is, "I'm sick of you and all your attitudes." So I think maybe he's saying like red, black, and blue. It's like the color of a bruise with blood, but it's also the colors of America. And he's kind of saying that like we are in turmoil right now. It's as close as we get through this album to like a really clear, straightforward social commentary. Again, that's just my opinion of what he's trying to say. I could be completely off base, but the music of this track is really cool. It has that old school Marilyn Manson tribal drumming that you hear on albums like Portrait of an American Family. So immediately between the spoken word intro and this tribal drumming, it gives you this like really classic Manson feel, which I think will be really exciting for old school fans who want to hear that classic Marilyn Manson sound. We Are Chaos, the second song, I already reviewed that song, so if you want to check out my review for We Are Chaos, check it out. It's very David Bowie inspired, it's way more major chords, it has acoustic guitar in it, it has a big sing-along chorus. Definitely took me off guard, but in the context of this album, I think it makes more sense. Marilyn compared it to like his Dope Show, where when he released Mechanical Animals, he kind of threw everybody a curveball with the first single, Dope Show. I think We Are Chaos is similar to that. He definitely took a chance artistically. I think it pays off because it raised a few eyebrows and people were like, whoa, what is this? What is this? So like they definitely knew that they were gonna get a different Marilyn Manson album than they've been used to lately. The next song, Don't Chase the Dead, is a really awesome song. I love it. It has this 80s gothic new wave vibe. It's one of the few songs where Manson does sound like David Bowie, especially the album Scary Monsters. He always compares himself to Bowie. He always says that he's channeling Bowie with every album he does lately, but I don't really hear it a lot. I'm a big Bowie fan, and I love both of these artists, but I don't really hear the comparison very much. With this song, Don't Chase the Dead, I definitely hear Bowie vibes. Bowie Bowie vibes. Wow, tongue twister. It has a lot of chord changes in it. That's one thing that I noticed with this album. The musicality is definitely on point. Shooter Jennings is definitely bringing something to the table here. There's a lot of interesting chord changes and interesting vocals that we don't hear a lot from Marilyn. His vocals are some of the best he's ever done on this album. He talked about in an interview how he definitely got pushed outside of his comfort zone and was trying different key changes and stuff. And we hear that a lot on this album, especially with this song, Don't Chase the Dead. This is definitely going to become a staple of goth clubs. It's like very much a goth club type vibe. The next song is one of my favorites on the album. It's Paint Me With Your Love. It definitely took me off guard. It's a big ballad type song. It definitely is the most country sounding, but I wouldn't really even call it that. It has like a classic rock vibe. A lot of people were expecting this album to be kind of country because of Shooter Jennings. This is the closest we get to that, but it feels more like almost like Elton John. It's like Manson's channeling Elton John, and he mentioned in an interview how he was listening to Elton John, he was watching the movie Rocket Man, and he was crying. And so I think that this is his sort of homage to that classic rock ballad type thing. Shooter Jennings has amazing piano throughout this album, and this song is definitely no exception. The instrumentation is phenomenal. It sounds really clear and clean. It's one of Manson's most classic sounding songs that he's done. Manson's always been a big classic rock fan. You hear it even from the early Spooky Kids. They used to cover Beatles songs and put weird twists on them and stuff. Manson's always been trying to bring back elements of classic rock, even in the late 90s where he was kind of lumped in with the new metal scene or the industrial metal scene. He was always channeling these earlier artists from the 70s. And this song is definitely one of those where he goes back and channels that golden era of music. And the ending of it is phenomenal. It goes from this like really sort of romantic, heartwarming kind of thing into like a really dark, beautiful sound with the synthesizers. The ending of it reminds me of The Speed of Pain. It's just a phenomenal song overall. When I first heard it, I really was like, wow, he really went out there on a limb. But the more I heard it, I'm like, this is one of the best songs he's ever done. The next track is another one of my favorites on this album. It's Halfway and One Step Forward. It has an amazing piano line that starts the whole thing. It has almost like Justin Timberlake vibes, and some people might laugh at that, but we know that Marilyn is a fan of Justin Timberlake. During the Eat Me, Drink Me era, he did do a cover of What Goes Around Comes Around. So I think this is sort of him channeling Justin Timberlake a little bit, but his version is a lot darker. It's more melancholy. It has this epic vibe to it. There's a mellotron that plays at one point in the song. The instrumentation is phenomenal. The vocals are phenomenal. It's haunting. It has a very haunting quality to it. At one point he says, don't want to know, don't need to know, you got champagne problems. And that just sticks in my head over and over. I keep wanting to hear this song again and again. It just grows on me so much. It's so hypnotic and it just buries itself in my head. I find a lot of the songs on this album, I just keep hearing them over and over and I keep wanting to listen to it again and again. After this, we get the heaviest song on the album, Infinite Darkness. This song sounds like it wouldn't have been out of place on an album like Born Villain or even Antichrist Superstar. It definitely channels that industrial metal vibe. It's heavy, he's screaming, you're dead longer than you're alive. It sounds like some kind of vendetta he has against somebody. This song is interesting to me because it's also, the title of this song is the same as the title of the painting that is the cover of the album. He calls that painting Infinite Darkness. Definitely one of the heaviest moments on the album. It's also a really great song. Even when he's going and channeling Antichrist Superstar, it feels a lot more genuine here than it did on Born Villain, where he was like trying to be heavy again, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, sometimes it felt a little bit forced. Here it feels totally natural. I couldn't be happier about his collaboration with Shooter Jennings. I think it really makes sense, and it's even taken it up a notch from the Tyler Bates albums, which would be really hard to do because I think we're seeing a real comeback from Marilyn Manson. He had a little bit of a slump there in the early 2000s with Eat Me, Drink Me, which has actually grown on me a lot, but it's has something about it that can be a little bit cheesy at times. The high end of low is kind of all over the place and it was a little bit personal. It seemed like he was going through some rough stuff. Born Villain, again, he was trying to be heavy again, but it felt a little bit sluggish and all over the place and scattered. This album does not feel that way at all. It feels like this is part of the big comeback arc that he's been on since he did The Pale Emperor. The next song, Perfume, is another great song. This one has that classic swing beat that Marilyn always has on his albums. Whether it's songs like The Beautiful People, Rock is Dead, Disposable Teens, Mob Scene, or Mephistopheles of Los Angeles, there's always that one song that has that glam beat to it, and this is that song. Perfume is that song on this album. He says, get behind me, Satan. Get behind me, Satan is something that Jesus said in the New Testament, in the Bible. And so he's saying it here sarcastically. He keeps chanting it in a really cool falsetto. This song is very sexy. It has that swing swagger to it. That is the classic Marilyn Manson formula. Definitely a highlight. I could see this easily being a single. If you're gonna conjure the devil, you better have a bed for him to sleep in. So this is one where Marilyn kind of brings back that sexy, sexual sort of persona that we know him for. The next song, Keep My Head Together, is really interesting, and it's definitely grown on me the more I've listened to it. This one's more of like an alternative rock sound to it. It shows that Marilyn has such a versatility to him that he could do a song like this. It really doesn't sound like anything else that he's ever done in his whole catalog. It sounds like it's about his relationship with people around him. He says he doesn't want to change to be like anyone else. He'd rather be himself. Got to keep his head together. Definitely has sort of touches on a little bit of the mental illness themes that Marilyn has been talking about lately in interviews, how he feels like he's struggled with mental illness his whole life. And this song definitely feels kind of uplifting in a way. The next song is Solve Coagula. Solve Coagula is something that Marilyn has tattooed on his hands in the past few years. I was curious when I saw this song title what it would be about. It's a cool song. It's a little bit sad, it's a little bit of a downer, but in a very Mechanical Animals way. It's really beautiful at the same time. He says, I'm not special, I'm just broken and I don't want to be fixed. Again, Marilyn Manson seems to be touching on mental health with this song. It's like he's found peace with the idea of him being broken. And that brings us to the last song, Broken Needle, which almost sounds like a modern version of Coma White, the last song of Mechanical Animals, and it's a phenomenal closing song to the album. Originally when I heard this song title, I thought he was talking about heroin, and I think the fact that he's actually talking about vinyl, he's talking about the needle on a record player, is actually a lot cooler and more interesting. He seems to be talking about his relationship, saying he's a needle that's playing the grooves of someone. And in this case, I don't know, it sounds almost like maybe he's apologizing for being a player or having affairs in the past. We know that Marilyn has had affairs in the past with people that he's been with, including Dita Von Teese. He cheated on her with Evan Rachel Wood. My speculation is that this could be about his current relationship. Marilyn says, are you alright? Because I'm not okay. All of these lies are not worth fighting for. And again, this seems to me like some kind of relationship thing going on here. Maybe he's talking about the lies he's telling her, the lies he's telling himself, the lies they're telling each other. Early on in his relationship with Lindsay, it seemed like it was really rocky. He would talk about in interviews how they were having all kinds of like domestic disputes and stuff. It seemed like maybe there was just some craziness going on at home. And now, when you see them now, they seem a lot happier, more calm, more collected. It seems like maybe this song is about how they've resolved a lot of these issues that they were going through. He's saying, I'll never ever play you again. Maybe he's saying that he's tired of all the damage that they've been through and he wants to be faithful with Lindsay Usyk. They are engaged now and they do seem to be really happy. So to me, this song feels very personal and maybe touching on some personal themes with this relationship. That's the way I take it. I could be completely wrong. That's just my interpretation. It has an epic feeling to it, as only Marilyn Manson can do. Huge ending chorus. And then it ends with the sound of a needle on a record player skipping, which is really cool because it fits in with the theme of the song. Overall, I would give this album a 9 out of 10. I think it's phenomenal. It's an amazing album. Highly recommend it. Definitely check it out. I'm really excited to see what the next single will be. Check out my band, The God Bombs. We just released a new music video called Virus. It's on our YouTube. Subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Enjoy this album. I love you guys, and thank you so much for tuning in.